Meanwhile, at the United Nations, the human rights lawyer Clooney has urged countries to focus on delivering justice for war crimes in Ukraine.
George Clooney and Amal Clooney, the ultimate Hollywood power couple, are facing a heartbreaking storm that has left their once perfect marriage on the brink. Rumors are everywhere, the pressure mounts and cracks deepen under the weight of their extraordinary lives. Tune in, their world is unraveling and what's coming will leave nothing the same. Love meets pressure and distance. Amal's latest case at the International Criminal Court, a job that grabs the attention of world leaders, has allegedly unleashed a whirlwind of chaos, the kind that's hard to confine to just her professional life. Critics are calling her work bold, others dangerous. Either way, the backlash has been intense and the fallout has spilled over into the Clooney household. But the weight of global scrutiny threatens to unravel their once unshakable bond. George and his wife were once the poster children for marriage goals. They had that rule, never spend more than 7 days apart. Romantic, right? But rules like that are hard to keep when your job involves dodging threats, international flights, and the world's spotlight. Her work has taken her across continents, leaving George and their twins, Alexander and Ella, to pick up the pieces back home. And while George might be Hollywood royalty, he's finding it tough to manage PTA meetings, paparazzi, and security threats all at once. Who knew the guy who made a charming look effortless could get stressed out? The thing about distance, physical or emotional, is that it doesn't just creep in, it bulldozes through. Her packed schedule, George's career commitments, and their very public lives have turned what used to be a tightly knit partnership into a logistical nightmare. Friends have been whispering that they're seeing less of the spark that once defined them. Sure, they're still in love, but love doesn't pay the emotional toll when your partner's halfway across the world, taking on international villains while you're trying to make sure the kid's bedtime routine doesn't fall apart. Her latest case has been particularly brutal. She's been tackling alleged war crimes in one of the most contentious conflicts of our time. Big case, bigger risks, and let's not sugarcoat it. When threats start flying, even the most composed person has to wonder if the fight is worth it. She has reportedly been grappling with guilt, questioning if her dedication to justice is jeopardizing her family's safety. Heavy stuff. And for George, who spent years being her cheerleader, this new reality is testing his limits. How do you keep saying, "I'm proud of you," when you're terrified every time your partner walks out the door? Meanwhile, the media is having a field day. Her work has drawn intense scrutiny. Some call it heroic, others aren't so generous. And let's be honest, when you're married to a guy as famous as George, the tabloids are practically camped outside your house, waiting for you to sneeze the wrong way. Speculation about their marriage is running wild. Are they still in love? Are they headed for Splitsville? Every red carpet appearance, or lack thereof, becomes a headline. The pressure must be unbearable, but here's the kicker. George and his wife aren't just sitting around letting the tabloids write their story. George made a rare public declaration at the Albie Awards, calling her the bravest person I know. Sweet, right? But it's hard not to notice that even this grand gesture couldn't silence the murmurs. Body language experts and armchair psychologists are analyzing their every move, trying to piece together the puzzle of their relationship. And while George's words might have reassured fans, the strain still seems visible to those paying close attention. Behind closed doors, she's been dealing with a complicated cocktail of stress, self-doubt, and isolation. It's not easy being the smartest person in the room when the room is full of people who either idolize or criticize you. The accolades that once felt validating now feel like weights dragging her down. And George, well, he's been quieter, more reflective. Friends say he's not his usual charismatic self. Instead, he's focused on keeping his family afloat. But even the most resilient people hit a breaking point, and George isn't immune. Marriage is messy. No amount of fame, fortune, or fabulous vacations can insulate you from real-life struggles. And the Clooney's life, as glamorous as it seems, is proving to be no exception. The question isn't whether they love each other. It's whether they can navigate this storm without losing themselves or each other in the process. To outsiders, it's tempting to assume that wealth and privilege make these challenges easier to manage. After all, they have access to the best therapists, the most luxurious retreats, and all the resources money can buy. But emotions don't respect bank balances. In fact, the stakes often feel higher for people like the Clooneys. Every disagreement, every bad day, every misstep becomes a public spectacle. Their lives are dissected by strangers who have never met them but feel entitled to an opinion on their relationship. That kind of scrutiny can turn small issues into monumental ones. And then there's the added pressure of their children. Alexander and Ella might be shielded from the worst of the media frenzy, but they're not oblivious. Kids pick up on tension even when parents try their best to hide it. George has reportedly been stepping up as the primary caregiver during her demanding schedule, juggling the roles of protector, entertainer, and stabilizer for his twins. It's a role he's embraced wholeheartedly, but it's also a heavy burden. Balancing fatherhood with his own career and the emotional demands of supporting her has left George visibly drained. She, on the other hand, is facing an entirely different set of challenges. Her work requires her to confront some of the darkest aspects of humanity. It's a noble pursuit, but one that comes with a profound emotional toll. The criticism she's received for her current case has been particularly harsh, with accusations of bias and political agendas dominating the discourse. For someone as principled as her, such attacks cut deeply. She spent her career fighting for justice, only to find herself vilified by those who disagree with her methods or conclusions. It's a lonely road, and one that's left her questioning whether she can continue to balance her professional and personal responsibilities. Despite these challenges, there are signs that the Clooneys are determined to weather the storm. Friends of the couple have reported that they've been making a concerted effort to prioritize their relationship. They've scheduled more family time away from the pressures of work and the public eye. These moments of reconnection have been crucial in reminding them of what brought them together in the first place. It's not a quick fix, but it's a step in the right direction. Yet even with renewed efforts, some challenges refuse to fade quietly into the background. Struggling to keep it together. Despite the challenges, they recently celebrated 10 years of marriage. From their stunning Venetian wedding to their low-key family life in the English countryside, their journey has been anything but ordinary. Yet as they navigate this latest chapter, the question remains, is their love story strong enough to weather the storm? 10 years in, they have achieved what many couples dream of, a family, a shared purpose, and a legacy. However, the road ahead looks anything but smooth. Balancing two demanding careers, raising children, and maintaining their privacy in an unforgiving public eye is no small feat. Whether their marriage is on the rocks or just hitting a rough patch, one thing's for sure: the world is watching. And if there's one lesson to take away from their saga, it's that even the most glamorous couples face the grind of real life. The question isn't whether they'll survive the spotlight, it's whether they can survive each other. Their marriage, a Hollywood heartthrob and a powerhouse human rights lawyer. Sounds like the ultimate dream team, right? They've got the looks, the brains, and the charm, but don't be fooled. Behind the magazine covers and picture-perfect smiles lies a reality far messier than anyone would expect. Think their lives are all glamorous parties and dreamy getaways? Guess again. This story isn't about their wedding, no Venice gondola fairy tales here. It's about the pressure cooker they live in. One that'll leave you questioning if fame and success are really worth the cost. From the moment they went public with their relationship, they became everyone's favorite obsession. Hollywood royalty meets international law hero. Their 2014 wedding wasn't just a big deal, it was the event. Fancy outfits, star-studded guest list, Venice as the backdrop. It screamed perfection. But while we were busy swooning over their love story, the real challenges were just beginning. Imagine trying to juggle two high-stakes careers, raise twins, and keep your sanity while the world watches your every move. Sounds exhausting, doesn't it? Let's start with him. He's been famous for ages thanks to roles like Dr. Doug Ross on ER and a string of blockbuster movies. Add his tequila empire, ever heard of Casamigos, and his activism, and you've got a guy who's always in the spotlight. But fame isn't all red carpets and fan mail. He's talked about how exhausting it is to keep up the charming, cool guy persona. Imagine being expected to be on all the time. Walking through a park? Forget it. Paparazzi are lurking. Dinner out with the family? Cue strangers snapping photos. Even your downtime becomes a performance. Then there's Amal. Before she met him, she was already a big deal in her own right. tackling war crimes, representing political prisoners, and making headlines for her legal smarts. She wasn't chasing fame, it found her. Suddenly, every outfit she wore, every case she took on, and every word she said was under a microscope. For someone used to focusing on serious global issues, becoming a tabloid darling was probably the last thing she wanted. Now, she's not just a lawyer, she's a celebrity, whether she likes it or not. And their kids? Alexander and Ella might be the luckiest twins alive, but they're growing up in a world where normal doesn't exist. Bodyguards, private jets, and a fortress-like home life might keep them safe, but it also isolates them. Amal and her husband are trying to shield their kids from the craziness of fame, but how do you give your children a normal childhood when the world won't stop watching? Even their so-called escapes aren't really escapes. Their villa in Lake Como, a place that should scream peaceful retreat, has become a hotspot for nosy photographers and drone enthusiasts. Imagine waking up to strangers' cameras flying over your morning coffee. Not exactly the dreamy hideaway they'd hoped for. The careers don't help either. Amal's work takes her to some of the world's most dangerous places. She's facing down dictators, defending human rights, and getting caught in political crossfires. It's not just stressful, it's life-threatening. He isn't exactly taking it easy either. Between acting, directing, and managing billion-dollar ventures, he's stretched thin. Their schedules rarely sync up, and even with promises to never spend more than a week apart, real life doesn't always cooperate. But the toughest part? The relentless expectations. They're seen as a power couple who've got it all, which leaves zero room for mistakes. Every move they make is analyzed. Amal's groundbreaking legal cases? People comment on her shoes instead. His philanthropy? Some call it PR. Even their marriage isn't safe from speculation. Are they fighting? Are they too busy for each other? When's the divorce announcement coming? The world loves a perfect couple almost as much as it loves tearing them down. Despite all this, they're making it work, kind of. They've got strategies to cope, like humor, his secret weapon, and purpose-driven work, Amal's saving grace. When they're not jet-setting across the globe, they're trying to create small pockets of normalcy. Playing with their kids, relaxing at home, or just finding quiet moments to reconnect. Those little things matter when your life feels like a three-ring circus. The truth? They're doing their best to keep the fairy tale alive, but it's not easy. Fame might look glamorous from the outside, but the inside story is far more complicated. Balancing careers, family, and the never-ending demands of the spotlight is a Herculean task. Yet through all the chaos, they've managed to keep moving forward. Not because they're perfect, but because they're determined to make it work. And honestly, that's more impressive than any wedding in Venice. To truly grasp what they're up against, it helps to dig even deeper into their lives. Amal's work often involves traveling to conflict zones and facing some of the darkest aspects of humanity. She stood her ground in courtrooms around the world, defending the voiceless and shining a light on injustices that most people would rather ignore. But doing this comes with a heavy cost, both emotionally and physically. Each case she takes on requires an enormous amount of preparation, research, and emotional resilience. The stakes are always high, and the outcomes can impact countless lives. It's no wonder that the weight of her work occasionally seeps into her personal life, leaving her drained and needing time to recharge. Even as they tackle challenges on different fronts, the divide between their two worlds seems to grow. Navigating two worlds. For him, the challenges are different but no less intense. His roles in Hollywood have evolved over the years, moving from acting to directing and producing. Each of these comes with its own set of stresses. Being in charge of a film, from funding to casting to post-production, is a job that demands constant attention to detail and a never-ending series of decisions. Then there's his tequila empire. While selling Casamigos was a lucrative move, staying involved in the brand's promotion means his schedule is packed with meetings, events, and public appearances. All of this makes finding time for family and relaxation an ongoing struggle. Through it all, they remain committed to their shared mission of making the world a better place. Their philanthropic efforts are a natural extension of their respective careers. The Clooney Foundation for Justice is a prime example of how they've channeled their influence into meaningful action. Whether it's advocating for refugees, funding education initiatives, or supporting victims of war crimes, their work is a powerful reminder of the good that can come from leveraging fame for a cause. However, the demands of running a foundation while juggling their already packed schedules only add to the complexity of their lives. It's easy to look at them and think they have it all. The truth is far more nuanced. They're navigating a path that few could manage, balancing their extraordinary careers with the equally extraordinary challenges that come with being one of the most recognizable couples in the world. Their journey isn't just about love and success, it's about resilience, compromise, and the determination to stay true to themselves and each other. Fame may be a double-edged sword, but for them, it's also a tool they've learned to wield with grace and purpose. What makes their story compelling isn't the glamour of the accolades. It's the way they confront the obstacles that come their way, refusing to let the pressures of fame define them. Whether they're taking on global injustices or simply carving out time to be with their children, their ability to rise above the chaos is what truly sets them apart. Their lives may be far from ordinary, but their commitment to each other and the causes they care about is something we can all admire. It's a reminder that even in the most dazzling lives, the human struggle is always present, and the effort to overcome it is what makes the story worth telling. Still, there's a lot more that goes into their lives than meets the eye. Let's delve into Amal's legal work, a career filled with high-stakes drama and profound impact. Representing Yazidi survivors against ISIS leaders, defending journalists wrongfully imprisoned, and tackling corruption on an international scale are just a few of her accomplishments. Each case involves untold hours of preparation. She meets with survivors, pores over mountains of evidence, and presents arguments that can shift global narratives. These are not courtroom dramas, but life-and-death situations. Every win is a step toward justice, but the emotional cost is immense. Her husband, too, grapples with his own set of high-pressure projects. As a director, he's a perfectionist, pushing himself and his teams to create films that resonate. He's not content to churn out movies for box office returns, he aims for stories that matter. Whether it's a political thriller or a heartfelt drama, the weight of delivering meaningful cinema sits squarely on his shoulders. Add to that his advocacy for Darfur and efforts to combat corruption in South Sudan, and you'll see a man who's much more than his Hollywood persona. And then there are the challenges of parenting. Alexander and Ella may have famous parents, but Amal and her husband are determined to keep them grounded. They're raising their children with an awareness of privilege, but also an understanding of responsibility. He has said he wants his kids to be compassionate and curious, not entitled. It's a fine line to walk, especially when your family lives in the public eye. The couple has made tough choices to protect their children, including legal actions against tabloids that overstep boundaries. Their relationship, too, requires constant work. Between Amal's travel to war zones and his time on set, maintaining a connection takes effort. They've implemented rules, like making time to talk every day, to ensure they stay close despite physical distance. It's not always easy, but their commitment to each other has been unwavering. They've built a partnership based on mutual respect, shared values, and an ability to laugh even in tough times. As they continue to navigate this life of extremes, one thing remains clear: their resilience. Amal and her husband embody the idea that challenges, no matter how daunting, can be met head-on with grace, determination, and a willingness to adapt. Their story is a testament to what's possible when love, purpose, and hard work come together. A story that reminds us all to keep striving, even when the odds seem insurmountable. Their day-to-day lives are a fascinating balance of extremes. He, despite his fame, often seeks refuge in routine. He has a deep appreciation for the simple joys of life: a quiet morning coffee, an afternoon spent tinkering with scripts, or even attempting to cook for the family. He has remarked in interviews how much he values the grounding force of domestic life, a stark contrast to the chaos of Hollywood and the philanthropic events he attends. Amal, on the other hand, finds solace in intellectual pursuits. Her commitment to justice and equality drives her even when she's faced with staggering odds. They've both admitted that their differing worlds, Hollywood and human rights law, can feel like galaxies apart, but that's where their strength lies. It's in the willingness to bridge those worlds that their partnership flourishes. Beyond their careers, the couple is known for their incredible hospitality. They've opened their homes to refugees and activists, providing both physical and moral support to those who need it most. For him, this is an extension of his activism. For Amal, it's a reflection of her deep-seated values. Even their approach to raising Alexander and Ella reflects a careful balance of privilege and responsibility. While the twins are growing up in a world filled with unimaginable luxuries, their parents are keenly aware of the importance of instilling humility and kindness. He often jokes about how he's teaching his kids to prank each other, a nod to his well-known sense of humor, but there's a deeper lesson there. Humor, he believes, is a way to stay grounded and connected in a life that often feels surreal. It's clear that their journey is far from a fairy tale. Their story is one of resilience, adaptability, and an unwavering commitment to each other and the causes they hold dear. Whether they're navigating the pressures of fame, advocating for justice, or simply enjoying a family dinner away from the spotlight, they prove that true partnership is about facing life's complexities together, with grace, humor, and a shared determination to make the world a better place. Are love and ambition a recipe for greatness or disaster? Share your thoughts below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us for more compelling stories like this one.